Welcome back to another episode of the YeahDat podcast hosted by yours truly, West Coast Roberto. And today's episode, I'm looking forward to. The guest I got today is not only a man of money, smart with his money, but one of the homies who I've known my whole life. We go so far back, since we were like 9, I believe. We were like that. I used to go to his house all the time. We were like two peas in a pod, and now he's about to come back and bless y'all with some knowledge because it's a new year. A lot of people want new thems, whether that's being physically fit, financially fit, whatever the case may be. We're going to talk about the financially fit aspect of it in today's episode with my special guest, my man Mario Bernache.
Hey, what's going on? West Coast
What?
Rob, aka Charles Robinson, my man. How are you?
What's up, Mario, man? Thanks for taking the time out, bro. I really appreciate it. I've been trying to get you on here for a minute, too.
No, I mean, thank you, because I think like once you make it on the YeahDat podcast, you made it.
Watch out. Watch out.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, man. So, for everybody out there listening and watching, enlighten them and let them know what it is that you're expert in.
yeah. So, just want to introduce myself. My name is Mario Bernache, like you said, and basically, what I started studying and got licensed in is just really understanding the concept of how money works. I think a lot of us are taught to work hard and to be smart about making money, but then
Yeah.
we're never really taught about what to do when you make that money or how to make your money work for you. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of factors that just got me into this industry that I'm like, man, it's amazing, it's empowering.
Yeah, and I'm very eager to hear what you got to say because, like, the older I've gotten, like you said, we aren't taught about money, and then coming up, we didn't have the most money, you know what I mean, and especially in the neighborhood we grew up in, it wasn't very financially stable. So the older you get, we had to learn like as we went. So being able to teach now, that's a big deal for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the same thing I feel. I mean, I grew up in low income. I know my parents were making ends meet, but like you said, once we grow up, we have kids of our own, and we start seeing how it really is out there. We're like, man, like I didn't know much about money. Like
Yeah,
we used to live paycheck to paycheck. Now, I like to say we live direct deposit to direct deposit. Um, but it's mind blowing how they tell us to go to school, learn. They teach us about how to get a good career and all that, so that we can make money. But then
yeah,
it's like, well, why don't they teach us a little bit about how to make the most out of it? So
yeah.
it's definitely something that I feel everybody should know, at a
Definitely,
young at a
definitely.
young early age.
What made you want to pursue that field of expertise right there?
Um, I think it all started like just from my upbringing too. Like I said, I remember my parents, doing their thing. My dad was the breadwinner. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and he was providing for a family of five. But then as I started growing up, we got to high school. When in that phase where we want to have the name brand stuff, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
your family can't afford it, and you see other kids, and you're like, well, how come they can and I can't? Or why are they so different than us, right? I mean, I remember getting $3 a week to spend at Sweetwater, so it's like one
yeah,
day on
yeah,
Monday I had to use it on like buying chips.
yeah,
Wednesday I would buy the drink and share with the friends, and then another dollar on Friday. So it's like $12 a month to just kind of
yeah,
be able to eat at school. So I think as life progressed and I got a little bit older, I experienced my mom's mom passing away, and then it kind of I saw how that put a burden on my mom's siblings and her, as far as like, hey, well, who pitched in, who didn't, like, and it kind of started getting nasty. So I'm like, all right, I can't continue like that growing up and not finding out like what we could do about money, right? So I got my licenses to be able to do investments and insurance, and I started learning just how we're taught, to go to the traditional bank to put money in a CD or savings account. And I
yeah,
remember one, like, as I got older, I think I was 22, 23. I put like 1,000 or 2,000 on a CD, and I thought I was all, super grown up and knew about money. Um, but realistically, I mean, it didn't really do much because, they don't give you that much money in return as far as your rate of return. So I started learning more about these just ways to make the money work. So I realized that I was like, how come they're charging us more to use a credit card? 24% interest, and then
Yeah.
when we
Oof.
invest our own money into the bank, they only give us like a 1% if we're lucky, right? So then
Yeah.
that kind of started teaching me like, there has to be another way, right? And so that's what I learned. I learned about investing our own money, skipping the bank, which we like to think of as the middleman, and we just invest right into the industries that just like the bank does. So I learned about investing into a mutual fund, getting better rates of return, and how exactly like your money doubles and grows. So once I figured that out, I was like, man, I got to tell all my friends and family, because this is, I feel, the reason that my parents left Mexico, to give me a better opportunity. But if I don't do anything about it and teach, those who I care about, then I feel like we're just going to repeat that same cycle.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I have to do something, like this was my calling to go ahead and just learn and teach and help others.
I dig it. I dig it, and I appreciate that too because I'm about to pick your brain on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So in regards to you and pursuing that and wanting to learn that, who did you refer to, like look up to in regards to learning the ways and what to do and how to do it? Because I know a lot of people out there want to do the same thing, but it's a very scary place for them to even start and don't know where to start. So how did you start, and then where should people start?
Yeah. So I started because my cousin, got his same licenses in this field, and he's always been kind of like work for himself. Has been his own boss. So
Yeah.
I trusted in him. Like he knew what he was doing. And so then I have a mentor, my buddy Scott, and we basically go through just all the information that's out there, but we don't know that's out there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, I mean, as far as starting, trust me, like we all have doubt and fears, because sometimes our hard-earned money, it's all we have, and we're kind of scared to like invest. But
Right.
it's no different than putting it in a bank, because they're doing the same thing with your money, investing it, but they're just giving you crumbs to whatever they're growing. And so
So
the one
it,
thing I would
go
say
ahead.
for those people that do want to start is just start.
Yeah.
You could start small, but just make sure that it's a goal that you have, that you want to start, and that it's going to come with some discipline, right? Because just like at the gym with you, I mean, I'm sure people want to start, but they have to be, they just have to start first of all,
That's
and they
right.
have to stay disciplined, and know that it's gonna hurt at times. There's gonna be some
Yeah,
sacrifices that have to be made, but
for
I mean
sure.
that's the only way that you're really gonna get to whatever your goal is.
Yeah. I agree completely. Like I always use the gym because that's just something like I'm very comfortable with for like
Right.
people trying to start or begin something. If there's something you don't know, like or how to do or whatever, you have to ask the questions. So same goes for anything in regards to finances, anything. So
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna ask the questions. So where do you recommend somebody should start? Like you said, start by just doing it, but what is a good like starting point for somebody who isn't really literate in finances or investing?
I mean, the best place to start is just kind of peeling back that onion, and really identifying what everybody's individual goals are, right? If, like, let's say we're
Yeah,
starting this year, hey, this year, like, I want to be able to save up money, or I want to be able to get rid of debt. Just kind of sit down, get a game plan going, write it down. I always like to say you got to think in ink, because if you write stuff down, there's something about the power of the pen that just makes you kind of move closer towards those goals. So I would
yeah,
first establish like what it is that you want. If it's you're trying to get out of debt, great. Like how are we going to approach that? And that's one of the services I help my family's clients with, is just doing a financial needs analysis, right? Because we all kind of have to have a blueprint of where we stand, and then
Yeah.
that's basically going to help us reach the destination, right? But we need a GPS, right? If you were to
Mm-hmm.
tell me to come over to your house, man, I'm gonna need you to give me some instructions, some guidance on
Yeah.
how to get there, right? Because I
Yeah. Yeah.
can't just
Definitely.
go into it blindly. So the same thing here with finances. I tell people, like, write down the goal of what it is that you want, what you need. I sit down with them in person via Zoom, and we kind of just go through everything, right? All their debts, their income, their expenses, and a lot of people sometimes always tell me, like, man, I'm a little embarrassed, and I'm like, hey, like, we've all
Definitely.
been there. We've all been
Yeah.
there, right? It's nobody's fault. It's just the great thing about it is that now you want to do something about it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I kind of start with them. We go over what debt they have, and then we kind of strategically put a plan in place together so that they can start getting rid of the debt. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you recall, if you've had some credit card statements or whatever, they'll tell you the
Yeah.
minimum, and they'll basically tell you when you're gonna finish paying off, that card if you keep sending the
Yeah.
minimum.
Definitely.
And sometimes people follow that, and they'll be like, well, I'm gonna throw in an extra $10 this month or an extra 20 or whatnot. So what we do is that I take all that info, I put it into our database, our platform, and it basically tells us which debt to tackle first. And it basically tells us, hit this one because of, the balance or the interest rate that it has. Don't send anything extra to anything, and just focus on this one. And then once that one's paid off, then whatever we were sending to that card, we send it to the next one,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth and so forth. So it's kind of called that snowball effect, right? Where it
Snowball
kind of
effect.
starts,
Yeah.
yeah. So it starts going into it, and believe it or not, I mean, we've had clients. I have a close buddy of mine who, it was gonna take him, I don't know how many years to just get out of debt, and he ended up doing it like in 8 months. But again,
Oh
he had a
shit.
yeah, but he had a sacrifice. He had to make sure that he stayed committed to himself and to his wife, and
Yeah.
make sure that he wanted to achieve that goal. So that's one part where if you want to start, just identify it, tell yourself, like, all right, I want to change, and I'm gonna go after it. And then at that point, it's like, okay, you're committed, so let's see what we could do to go ahead and start making those changes.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I learned about the snowball effect through Dave Ramsey. I'm sure you're aware of
Yeah,
who Dave Ramsey. And so
absolutely.
I used to listen to his podcast every day on the way to work because I was like, all right, I'm trying to get financially like fit and all that. So
Yeah.
snowball effect, huh? So then I started the snowball effect, and it does work, and it does work.
Right.
It works like crazy. I was like, oh shoot, I paid off this, paid off that. But it's
Yeah.
the sacrifice. He also talks about like his one of his mottos is live like nobody else in order to live like nobody else. And
Yep.
I think that's probably the toughest part for people is having to sacrifice. Okay, I can't have Netflix for right now. I can't have this, and this in order to do this. But once you
Hmm.
pay off all that, then you'll be able to do whatever you want to do. So it's just, I think that's probably one of the hardest parts of getting debt free is the sacrifice part. What do you think?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. I mean, like you said, Dave Ramsey always says you got to kind of live below your means, right? So
Yeah,
whether it's, maybe if you used to go out and eat every weekend, maybe we scale it back to twice a month,
yeah,
while you're in that process of getting rid of some debt. But yeah, everybody wants to live like the Joneses. But in reality, sometimes even the Joneses aren't showing that they're like neck high in debt, and they're
right.
just doing it to maybe, um,
Hold an
show off to
image.
people what they have. Yeah, it's an image. It's an image
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And I think once you start learning that it doesn't really matter, then you kind of start knowing a little bit more about where your money's going. That's the other thing. If you don't know where your money's going, there's no way that we could also try to figure out what we could do to save it. So, like you said, you started the snowball effect. You kind of started seeing where your money was going,
yeah,
and it started working, right? So that's one thing I want to tell everybody. Like, just print out a statement, see exactly where you're spending your money at, and you'll be surprised. I mean, I used to be, prior to getting more into this finance stuff, I printed out a statement once. I remember highlighting just random expenses, and it was like
yeah,
$700. And just like a quick stop to 7-Eleven,
yeah,
a quick bite here, a quick bite there. a weekend, I mean, breakfast, lunch, and dinner eating out. So it started adding up. And I was like, yeah, I got to make
Yeah,
some changes.
definitely. Now, in order to become like financially fit or debt free or even just comfortable, whatever,
Yeah.
would you in my opinion, you don't have to be cheap in order to do so. Do you think or do you feel as if you have to be somewhat cheap in order to be debt free or financially stable?
Not necessarily. I think that's maybe a misconception,
Yeah.
we might have, that you got to be super cheap. But it's all about just budgeting.
Yeah.
It's telling yourself, all right, because budgeting, all it really is telling your money where it's going rather than wondering where it went. So, I mean, if like I said, if you make a budget and you say, all right, out of this paycheck, we're gonna use $200 to last us 2 weeks to go out to do whatever activities throughout the week we do or whatnot, and you stick to that, then it's like, all right, you're starting to show some being disciplined, and you also know that you can be dipping into additional funds because that's allocated for other things. So,
Yeah.
I don't think it's about being cheap. I think if the phrase still applies, you got to be balling on a budget. But that's true, and I mean, for example, I'll tell you for myself, now that I'm older and I really don't care about, the image or appearance or whatnot. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I find, shirts at Walmart that I'm like, man, I'm gonna rock this T-shirt, and it's
Heck
only
yeah.
$7-8, and then people are
Hell
like, hey,
yeah.
where'd you get that shirt? I'm like, man, I got this at
From
Walmart. It
Walmart.
was like 6 7
Hell
bucks,
yeah.
versus before I'd have to buy a freaking, I don't know, $60 shirt, just to,
Yeah.
to feel good, to
I
look
feel
good.
you.
But it's just a lot of different ways that you can actually shop smart.
Definitely, definitely,
Yeah.
and it has to be a part of being older because I'm the same way, bro. Same way. I go to Walmart or whatever, be like, damn, this is hell yeah. I got a Walmart like flannel jacket that's like one of my favorite jackets. It's from
There you
Walmart. You know what
go.
I mean, just
Yeah.
you know what I mean,
Even Costco
whatever.
has a good,
Hell yeah, Kirkland. Don't get me started.
yeah.
So debt to income ratio. Can we expound on that a little bit? Because I know a lot of people probably hear the term a lot, but don't really understand the term. Can you explain and like go a little more in depth of what the debt to income ratio is and how you should kind of be following and living by that?
Yeah, so debt to income ratio, I mean, what it boils down to is just, what your gross income, what you're bringing in monthly, and then pair that up with what your expenses are, what you're paying on a consistent basis. And that's a big factor because, I know in the mortgage field they use that to try to see what you're going to qualify for, because they if you have too much debt, then it's like, well, how are you going to pay for the house if
Right.
you're drowning in debt? So your income's just not there. It's not going to be able to cover it. But even if, in the field where if you're not looking to buy a home or anything like that, you just want to know what your debt to income is. It's just, again, you just sit down, analyze, all right, how much are we bringing in, bi-weekly, weekly, monthly, whatever the case is, and how much debt do we have? And, you just kind of divide those two, and it gives you a percentage. And I mean, I don't want to be too extreme because I know Dave Ramsey's pretty extreme to that point, but
Oh yeah,
I mean,
definitely,
if you
definitely.
if you have 40-50% of your income going to debt, it's like it's pretty up there. So
Yeah.
that's one of the best ways to just kind of see where you stand. It's finding out, all right, how much of my money is going to paying all these companies or making them a lot more wealthy than myself.
Right. Also, I know one of the there's a I follow many people. I
Yeah.
really want to learn like finance and just how to like maneuver and make it work for me. So Aaron Marino, he said something. He said if you use like credit cards, how I don't know, I want to get your opinion on credit cards, but
Yeah.
he says that credit cards you shouldn't use credit cards because one, it's borrowed money, and if you can't afford to buy something outright with your own like cash, then you shouldn't buy it with credit cards because that's borrowed money. So what are your thoughts on credit cards?
Um, if you don't know how to manage them, don't use them. And I feel that in the past it used to be to kind of like you said, well, I can't afford this right now, but I'll charge it, and then I know for sure I'll be able to pay it off, in 2 weeks and whatnot.
Yeah,
But now it's kind of gotten to a point where I think people are using credit cards not for luxury or anything else, but more so for everyday needs, right? Groceries, gas, and stuff like that.
yeah,
They're dangerous though. They're very dangerous, and this is where I wish that at the age of 18, when we were getting out of high school, we would have had some knowledge on how credit cards work, right? Because
definitely.
you could quickly rack up two, three, five, $10,000 in credit cards, and now you're just in a hole that you can't dig yourself out of. So
Right.
um, they're very dangerous. I would say if you need to use them knowing that you could pay them off right off the bat. I know some people sometimes they're like, "Hey, well, I charge everything on my credit card, but just for more security, sometimes because of some rewards or points and stuff like that."
Yeah.
But
Yep.
they pay it right after that because it's as if they were going to be paying with debit anyway.
Yeah.
So if you can manage them that way, great. Otherwise, they're dangerous because it's not your money. Like he said, it's borrowed money that you don't see
Yeah.
leaving your bank account, and so you're a lot more prone to just swipe and be like, "Oh, it's okay, I'll pay it off." But little do you know, you've already racked up a whole bunch of purchases that now you're trying to just fight to pay the first one off, and then you already charge something else, and then
Yeah.
that's where they get you with the whole 24% interest. So
Which is crazy. Crazy.
it's
Can you like indulge more about interest rates? Because I know a lot of people. So real quick. So in the Navy, I deal with a lot of younger cats, and a few months ago, I had a young dude come to me. He's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a car." I was like, "All right, cool." Dude's like 18, 19 years old. I was like, "You got
right.
credit?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "All right." Before you go to the dealership, make sure you bring one of the supervisors with you, me, whomever. Just don't go buy a car without anybody. So he's
Yeah.
like, all right. So then I go on, I take leave, go on a little break, come back 2 weeks later. This fool bought a car. And I was like, what kind of car? So he buys this car. He bought some hoopty for said amount with the interest rate was out of this world. And I was just like, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? And then so I asked him, I was like, well, before he told me the interest rate, I asked him, I was like, what's the interest rate? He's like, well, I don't know. I was like, well, how much are you paying? So he
Yeah.
told me how much he's paying, and I was like, let me know the interest rate. And the interest rate was stupid, some stupid amount. And I was like, by the time you pay this car off, you could have bought like five of them, six of them cars with that interest rate. Like, what are you doing? So
Yeah.
could you, with your level of knowledge, your expertise, please uh, go into interest rates and how those can be what really gets you and hit you over the head.
Yeah. So, I mean, interest rates, if used wisely to your advantage, could be great, right? Um, but if used for purchase and stuff like that, then that's
Yeah,
where it's dangerous. So I think we all grew up with the knowledge of like, hey, well, as long as I can afford the monthly payment, then I'm okay. Just we never really
yeah,
asked like, hey, how much is this gonna cost total? Just hit me with that number that I can afford monthly, and I'm good. And so that's why
yep,
we see kind of these dealerships now offering what 72, 84 month terms, stretching
yep,
out the term to get people into that comfortable payment. But what we're failing to realize is that the interest rate is what's going to eat us up, right? So what when you're sending that monthly payment, only a portion of it is getting applied to the actual principal, and then the rest is
yeah,
just getting going into the interest. So um, one one thing I started learning is like, and it's tough, right? It's instead of
yeah,
asking like what my monthly payment's gonna be, we got to start asking how much am I gonna end up spending on this one thing, right? Like you said with your coworker,
yeah,
maybe a I don't even want to say $10,000 car because that hasn't been the number for a while, but
yeah.
um, yeah. So if a car was
It
gonna
was though.
cost 20,
Yeah,
what's the end price gonna be? And, and if they tell you 50,000, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, you can
Golly.
afford the monthly payment, but you're over
Yeah.
here paying double or almost triple of
Yep.
what it was supposed to cost you.
Yep.
Um, but then on the flip side, with interest rates or rates of returns, this is where now it's a good thing for our benefit. So here's what I mean. So I talked about CDs at the banks or whatnot. I like to call
Yep.
them certificate of depreciation because they're giving you a 1% when inflation's higher than that, right? So
Definitely.
um, what I learned was a cool rule that if they would have taught us this at school, I'm pretty sure I would have paid attention. Hopefully, it's a simple it's a simple rule of 72, right? So it basically states that whatever rate of return you're getting for your money divided by 72. So, for example, like if instead of going to a bank and opening up a CD, we put our money into a mutual fund that can pay anywhere between 6 to 10 to 12%, depending on
Yeah.
where we put our money.
Yep.
If we take that 6 and divide it into 72, and man, I'm gonna put myself on the spot. 72 divided by 6. Come on, Charles, help me out here.
One down, one.
Yeah,
What?
carry
I
the
don't know.
here.
Where's
Let's
my
calculate.
calculator, man?
Yeah,
Oh, guys.
right. 12. There we go.
You know what? I had it in my head. I was gonna say
I
12,
knew
but I didn't want to sound
I knew
stupid.
you did. So, I mean, I know it's gonna sound like a long time, but basically, your money's gonna double every 12 years, right? So a six
Mhm.
percent is way better than that 1%, because
Definitely.
if you get a 1% and you drop in 5,000, and you want that money to grow at a 1% rate of return, that 5,000 is gonna double in 72 years, and which
Oh
is
my
why we're
god.
not. Yeah, so that's why we're never gonna try to accumulate more wealth if we just put that money in the bank. But
Yeah.
then
Just let it
when we
sit.
do, yeah, and when we do that, when we put the money in the bank, it's not just sitting there. They're lending it to you via a credit card and getting 24%. They'll give me that 1%, but then they're basically profiting on the 23%. That's the difference. So that's one thing too that I've told my family. Like, I know it's hard to kind of not be able to see a physical, brick and mortar place of where you're investing your money, but that's kind of how it's going to allow us to get those better rates of returns, the sixes, the eights. I mean, there's some mutual fund accounts that in the past 50, 60 years have averaged 10%, right? And then
Yeah.
that's how people are kind of getting wealthy. How we would see maybe some of the individuals who we see like, man, these people like are rich. What do they do for a living? But they're just they just knew how the money grows. And honestly, the power of a compound interest is crazy. I've seen this example before, where you ask somebody to give you a penny, and then the next day you ask somebody to double it and give you two, and then so on and so forth. In
Yeah.
30 days, that one penny grows to like, and I kid you not, and you can look this up. I think it was like 3 point something mil, because you're just doubling everything. And once you get into
Damn.
those bigger numbers where it's like from 2,000 to 4,000, 4,000 to 8, 8 to 16, so it
Yeah.
starts compounding, and you're like, dang, like it's doubling, and it's getting up there. So again, with interest rates, rates of returns, if you're using it for to your advantage, it's great. But in via credit card with interest rates and 20 somethings, it's a nightmare. That's where they get us.
Dang. Dang, that's some knowledge right there. I hope y'all are paying attention out there. That's some knowledge because I'm eating this up right now. So using it to your advantage, and I forgot who I was watching somebody, and they said the same thing in regards to I think they were talking about taxes, and they're like, okay, taxes are good when they work for you, but then
Mhm.
taxes against you are the opposite. It just reminded me of what you were saying with the interest rates.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy,
Yeah,
huh?
dang, that is crazy, man. So when it comes to investing, when you refer to investing, you mean like mutual funds and stuff like that.
Right.
Um what about like stock investing and stuff like that?
I mean, stock
It's a whole
investing
different,
is
whole different thing.
it's within that field, but it's a little bit set up slightly different. I mean, if you wanted to buy like direct stocks from any company,
Yeah.
you know, you could do it yourself. Which again, if you don't have much knowledge, can be risky because you know it's a very emotional thing. You see that it's low, you buy some, and you see it going up, and you're like, oh heck yeah, I made it. And then the next day you check that stock and it's down, and you're like panicking, and you want to
Yeah.
sell it right away because you don't want to lose money. So with stocks and doing it by yourself, it can be a little bit, you know, risky or emotional. Um, I always like to kind of go the route of a mutual fund because you're still buying stocks from companies, but you're basically it's like pooling all your money together with a lot of different individuals, and basically that lump sum money is what ends up buying the stocks. And the difference, a big difference in that too, is that when you just personally go and buy the stock, it has to be a full share. So let's say SDSU is 250 a share, you have to
Yeah.
put 250. Versus in a mutual fund, you can actually have like partial shares. So
Right.
because of that money, you're able to get, you know, maybe half of a share or 1 point something or 2 point something shares because we're pulling all that money as a group. And you're still buying stocks. I mean, there's mutual fund
Yeah.
accounts that are set up where the top 10 companies that make that mutual fund are like Microsoft, Apple, Coca-Cola, Amazon, and a whole bunch of different ones. So you're
Yeah.
becoming part owner of those companies because your money
Right.
is in those stocks.
So when you do when you're a part of a mutual fund or you invest in a mutual fund and you make set amounts, do you make that amount or are you making a portion of the amount you make?
You're making so basically whatever you're putting into it, that
Yeah.
money is what basically is your piece of the pie, and that
Okay.
percentage is what helps your part of the pie grow.
All right. I want
And I mean, our mutual
trying
fund
to.
is no different than if we all have 401ks at work or, you know, at
Yep.
your employer. The 401k is a mutual fund,
Yeah.
because you're basically, you know, getting some money and putting it into, you know, a larger account,
Yeah.
that's just buying shares. But the difference with the 401k from your employer is that they kind of control it, right? It's theirs. It's a
Yep.
benefit to us as an employee. So if at one point they wanted to remove that benefit, then and that's it. And a lot
Yeah.
of times you don't have that many different type of options of where to put the money into. Whereas if you have your own mutual funds, whether it's a Roth IRA, an investment account where you want it to grow, or one that you wanted to kind of pay you income, you have a little bit or a lot more options, whether choosing certain sectors, certain companies. You know, if you have certain beliefs, there's also mutual fund setup where it's strictly based on your beliefs, and so many other options.
Nice. Yeah, we have in the military we have the thrift savings plan. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
Mhm.
we're able to play and like you can pull money and you can invest in the different levels from like S fund, A fund, and depending on the fund is how much like the influx. Like I believe the S fund is more so stock market driven, so you
Mhm.
get to play with that. And then if you want to pull, you can pull. You can take out. You can take out. So we're in the military. We're afforded that opportunity.
That's awesome.
With Roth IRAs,
Mhm.
could you explain the difference between Roth IRAs and a mutual fund? Because I know people hear that a lot, and I'm sure they don't know what they are. A lot of people are financial gurus at work, and we always talk about finances and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I want to hear it from an actual expert.
Yeah, I mean, a Roth IRA again is an actual mutual fund. The benefits of a Roth is that it starts growing basically tax free. So a Roth is you're contributing to it with money that's already been taxed. So you know, I have a Roth, and you know, once I get paid, that money's already taxed. So then whatever I contribute to my Roth, it doesn't get taxed because of the fact that that money's already been taxed. Now, a Roth IRA is for retirement. So it's a vehicle that we want to use so that we can use those funds when we retire.
Yeah.
You can use funds from that account by the time you're 59 and a half, and you can withdraw, and it's tax free, it's penalty free. Now, if you needed to pull funds from that account, you can. There's nothing wrong with it, right? But you're only going to get taxed on basically what the growth is. So you won't get taxed on when you already put in because again it's already been taxed.
Yeah.
But the Roth IRA is one of the strongest, in my opinion, a great tool to use for retirement because it's
Hmm.
gonna grow and it's gonna grow tax free.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Age 59. Who comes up with these ages, man? You know what I mean?
I don't know, man, but
Yeah, like
59 and a
59. Like,
half is like
I know. Like, come on. Like, why
right.
gotta be 59? I want it now. Like, give it to me.
Yeah, and see,
You
that's
know?
another thing too with retirement. I think we're always taught it's a number or it's an age thing, right? Like you
Yeah.
have to retire at 65, and it's like, well, why though? But
Exactly.
at 65, I guess it's I don't and your state, I don't know if it's different, but that's when the government, whoever gives you Social Security, and you're relying on that
Mm.
money. But
Yeah.
I going into finances and learning this is that retirement, it's not about an age, it's more about a financial number. So
Hmm.
that's another thing that we teach is the financial independent number, your fin number. So
Yeah.
basically, what number do you need to in regards to money to then be able to retire and live comfortably? And if you could get to that number at the age of 40, 50, then
Yeah.
you could retire, right? Because you'll have enough
Yeah.
money set aside to where monthly you could bring in whatever you want. The difference, you still have it in an account and it's still growing, and but
Hmm.
you're living off of that monthly allocated amount that you want. I mean, we have clients that, I kid you not, Charles, they will withdraw money monthly, and it's crazy how at the end of the statement balance they withdrew a set amount, let's say 20,000. So you would have thought that
Yeah.
their account went down by 20, and it's
Yeah.
actually grew $10,000 more, and you're like I pulled 20. How do
Wow.
I have now 10,000 more? But it's because
Yeah.
again, that set amount that's in the account, it's compounding, it's growing, and so
Damn.
it's yeah, it's a good thing.
Damn. I need to get on that level right there.
Exactly.
Man.
I'm looking
Holy
at. I want to
crap.
retire by 50.
Yeah, I hear that. Me too, Doug.
Right?
Me too. Dang. So, like you said, we aren't taught this in school. We aren't taught finance or any other, I think, like actual skill that we need, life skill in school. We're taught math, science, but we don't need
Right.
that. But
Yeah. I mean, I woke up
what
today and I'm like, a squared plus b squared is c squared. I don't know how I'm gonna use that today, but I remember it.
pi is 3.14? Oh shit.
Right?
For exactly though, exactly.
I was like,
So
great.
for for those out there who want to start, like what tips do you have for them? What guidance would you like to give right now to be like, okay, in step one, start doing this, blah blah bang bang, and then
Yeah.
go from there.
Again, just kind of get more info. And it's a little bit tough right now because you see so many people on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, and
Oh yeah,
whatever, saying they're financial experts and do this and do that. And don't get
yep,
me wrong, some of them, can be giving some great information, but there's also other individuals, with using other terms and infinite banking and this and that, where if you kind of read a little bit more into the fine print, it's not the best tool or route to go. But
yeah,
I feel that we're in times where people, they're hurting for money and they want an opportunity to make more money. So
yep,
it sounds great and they go that route, right? So I mean, what I would say is just kind of really look into somebody that has your best interest at heart, that really cares about what you're trying to accomplish, and then just start, whether if they have
yeah,
more questions for myself, or somebody who they've been kind of working with, just start. there's a lot of different ways you can start, and it all depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I know for myself, I wanted to get out of debt. I did.
Yeah.
I'm growing my accounts, my retirement one. I have two accounts for my young two daughters here that by the time they're 18, they'll have an opportunity. So
Yeah.
I'll just tell people really find out what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And there's a lot of tools and vehicles out there. We touched on the Roth. We touched on just
Hmm.
like an investment account where your money grows. There's college 529 plans for our kids. So, we could start
Hmm.
putting money aside for them the minute that they're born, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
if they don't end up
I've
going to
done that.
college, then that money could get rolled over for their Roth, so that when they're
Yep.
older, they could use it.
Yep.
And there's one other particular account that I feel also isn't being talked to enough, and it's another type of investment account for any families or individuals that have a disability, and it's called the ABLE account. The ABLE
Hmm.
account is achieving a better life experience, right? So, any individual with a disability, my buddy who I mentioned earlier, he's a father to a 14-year-old boy with autism, and
Yeah.
him and his wife's concern is like, well, who's gonna take care of him when we're no longer here? Like, who's gonna
Yeah.
provide for him
Of course.
financially, emotionally, whatnot? And
Yeah.
so this able account, bro, it's money set aside for an individual with special needs that again doesn't affect any benefits that they might be receiving, like SSI. It
Hmm.
grows tax free. You could use it towards whether it's transportation or anything to do with like their living arrangements, anything for school. They could take that
Yeah.
money out and use it for that. And that's another tool that I had never heard of. I mean, and I see more often now that there's parents raising, individuals with a disability, with
Yeah. Yep.
autism, and it's like you would want to tell all these people that this account exists, but yet nobody really knows about it,
Right.
and it doesn't take away from their benefits. And they could put in, I mean, as low as $50 a month, and that's gonna grow. And I mean, that's gonna accumulate and accumulate so that this child, whoever with a disability, doesn't have to worry about anything financial because he has his or her account set up.
Wow.
So
Okay.
as a
Yeah.
parent, I think that's one thing that really stuck out to me, that we we always say we would do anything for our kids, right? Like I'll die for them
Yep.
and whatnot. But are we learning enough for them? Are we trying to put something in place for them? And those are there's a lot of information and great tools out there, man. But they're not being told enough, and I think that's my purpose in this life, is to be able to bring awareness of all these things, man, and give back
Heck
to
yeah.
where we grew up from.
Hell yeah. I love it, bro. I love it. And I'm gonna ask my wife because my wife, she's up in the school where we live. She works for the school district, and she's one of the mental health therapists leads up here, and she deals with a lot of families that are like have like uh, special ed kids or whatever. So I
Right.
wonder if she's aware of the Able Fund, and if she's not, then I'm gonna do some research and we're gonna look it up and
Yeah,
have her
I'll email
put that
you
out.
the that information too. It
Okay. Yeah.
covers,
Yeah.
the details and what it's for, and why it was created, and it's a great tool. And that's one of my
I love it.
missions
I
too,
love it.
is to go to a lot of schools around here and just be able to provide this information to the parents,
Yeah.
and more so just as educational, not necessarily as people sometimes say like, you're just trying to sell something or do something. It's like,
Yeah.
not at all. Like, this is just more
Yeah.
information, and if it helps you, great. And if it doesn't, God bless you. I mean, but
Yeah.
if you know somebody who
Definitely.
it's going to benefit, then pass it along.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of reservations that people have nowadays is because everybody is trying. Oh, you come do this if you pay da 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 for my program. So a lot of people, it's common. So a lot of people are more hesitant and reluctant to do something when somebody's putting stuff out because of that.
Right. I mean, you work
You
so
know.
hard for what you get, and to sometimes
Yep.
see it just leave because somebody was just trying to make
Yep.
a quick buck off of you. That's I'm not a fan of it.
No, not at all. Not at all. So in regards to money, is there a get rich quick scheme? Do you believe in getting rich quick? Is that real?
No, it's just
Thank you.
discipline, staying the course,
Yeah.
and just giving it time.
Right on. Right on. Man, we can go for hours about this. This is a topic that I love, that I want to learn more about. I want people to know more about, but especially with the economy and the inflation and all that stuff,
Yeah.
I want to just go more into it, but I don't want to hold you too long. You know what I mean? But for
That's the thing
those,
too. It's easier to make an extra 500, 1,000, whatever amount of money you're trying to get.
yeah,
It's gonna be easier to make it than to try to save it. So if you have opportunities of making additional income, whether it's selling things on, what is that, Mercari, or things you no
oh
longer
yeah,
use,
Poshmark and all that stuff.
Poshmark, like just trying
Yeah,
to do something, whether it's an opportunity of doing what it is that I do and helping families and getting paid for it to help families. It's gonna be, you're gonna get to your goal a lot faster, and you can make whatever money you need extra monthly a lot quicker than
yeah.
trying to save it for the long run. So
So you're a big advocate about like passive income.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So if you got a hobby, if you got something you're skilled at, try to get some money out of it.
Yeah, and it's gonna
Yeah.
be a rewarding feeling because it's something that you're passionate in.
Yeah. Most definitely. So for everybody out there, where can if they want more tips, if they want to work with you, where can they reach you at?
Yeah, so my Instagram, I mean, they could look me up under RVP Mario Financial. They could hit that follow button, go through your account and see if I'm on there, and then just follow me.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll put your link in the
yeah,
podcast
put my
information
link. I
too.
mean, I'm
Show
fully
notes.
transparent. I'll have my phone number available as well, email, whatever it is.
Yeah. Hey, my man, Mario Bernache, here to help you get out of debt, help you just be more financially literate, whatever it is. And he's doing it just to do it. Like he loves it. He's passionate about it. It's not one of those get rich quick. He's not trying to take your money. So take advantage of it. And I guarantee he'll help you out.
Yeah, well, like I said, for that financial needs analysis, we don't charge thing. I will not take a dime or anything. We're there to really see how we can help you. If you were to go to a bank, then do the same thing. They'll charge you a couple $100 to tell you what you already know, that you have
Yeah.
a lot of debt. So the financial needs analysis is completely 100% complimentary.
Man, I love it. I love
Yeah,
it, man. I love it. I love what you're doing, bro. I do. I'm glad I finally got to get you on here and we can talk about this. I've been trying to get you on here forever. Schedule's just conflicting. I love it. I appreciate your time, bro.
absolutely, my man. I
My
appreciate
man.
you.
Of course. And if you want to get in contact with Mario, check out the show notes of the podcast or just hit me up and I'll give you his information. And he will be more than welcome, more than happy to help you out. That's what I'm trying to say. More than happy to help you out. And
Absolutely.
you know, my man. You know what I mean? It's my dude right here. We go so far back. I've always loved this dude. And I know you will too. So make sure y'all hit him up, man. You got any last words, Mario?
Just a big thank you to you. I mean, like you said, I think I've
No
known you
problem.
since fourth or fifth grade.
That's right.
We both
Fourth.
grew up with very similar background, you know,
Yeah.
neighborhoods and everything. And
Yeah.
it's just it's a blessing to be able to have
Definitely.
you have this platform, and for us to do the greater good, right? Which is help people,
That's right.
especially right now. So just big
Heck
thank you
yeah.
to you.
Hey, no problem, man. Pleasure's all mine, my man. So with that being said, we're gonna end it on that note. Thank y'all for listening. I appreciate y'all, Mario. Thank you again, and for those out there, everybody. Till the next episode, it's only West Coast Rob signing out. Yeah, that my man.